Hey, what up, what up? Can you guys hear the music? I got Earthbound soundtrack playing, which hopefully doesn't get me a strike. I know it's Nintendo and I know they're assholes, but it's kind of obscure. Good, just good background music. So, video game. I saw a meme someone posted like it was like girls laughing at a guy because when they ask him what music he listens to, he says video game soundtracks, and that one hit home. But I sometimes feel, yeah, like music. Well, it got me all defensive, and then I was like, Scott Adams says that music is a drug, and he doesn't even listen to music. I'm almost more on that line of thinking. I'll listen to music just to pump me up a little bit, but even not too much, because you don't want to like overdo it almost. When I'm working, you'll zone in, and I just like instrumental. But I like music when I hear it. But it's like I don't have an answer to that question. Someone in the comments was like, just like get an answer in the question to like serve the purposes you want to come off as a badass artist, but not a weeb or whatever. And they were saying just pick a heavy metal band and get familiar with their music and say that, because that would give kind of the feeling if any girl asks you that on a date or whatever. Jiminy Cricket. First we take over the neighborhood, then the world. Caleb, what's up? 5 people watching. I got this stream could potentially be funny. Let me get into it. So I'm gonna try and rank like tiers of success, and then we'll see where I am, and then we'll see how we like level up. So Narwhal planning to take over Poland. They would never let me. Those bastards. They got their shit together. So I can start from the top. So top tier. I could possibly organize this better than just handwritten. What if we make it a little bit like a chalkboard? Okay. So top. What should I call it? Top. Let's say 1, I guess, or A. We'll say A. Sure. The A tier. No, this is S tier. Is Disney. Old Walt Disney, not new Disney. And then what he did, if you think about that, like, so that's like the ultimate power. Like, he has people underneath him who are like geniuses, kind of, and they're putting out lots of good, cool art. It's interesting because Disney wasn't a direct writer; he actually worked with writers. The A tier is Mark Miller. And he's kind of like one of these dudes who would work under Disney, but he has his own people working under him, and he is a writer, and he's got fruition of his vision, Simply Green says, "Gee, Narl, what are we going to do tonight?" It's funny, 7 people watching. I think this was a good clickbait title for a stream, but it's literally so it's not even clickbait because it's literally what I want to do. But we'll see if more people come in. But everyone here is here for a reason. Cool team. Save me from weekday live stream outrage grifter people, Nar. Yeah, we're just what are we doing? We're not outrage grifting. Everyone's talking about that movie, The Marvels. Dude, that gives me a flashback though. It was pretty cringy, I thought, when everyone was hating on Barbie so much because they kept predicting that it would bomb, and it made so much money. And then they go, this is the problem, is doubling down. That's like the main problem that I have an issue with. That's what SJWs do. They always double down. So we should never double down. But we were doubling down on Barbie. A lot of people were saying, because I was just clicking on the links, I was following it and I was interested, and people were saying, oh, but it's going to fall off more than ever because they lied about how woke it is. So the second weekend, it's going to be the biggest fall off, and it will still be a dud or whatever. That's what people were saying then. And of course, that didn't happen either. And like at that point, you doubled down, got owned twice in a row. That's like super embarrassing. And that happened to like a lot of people. But on the flip side, just it can happen to anyone. It randomly happened, and it's not even that big a deal. What if you get super embarrassed about a stupid movie once a summer or whatever, because it did kind of happen to your boy Zach with Indiana Jones. He was doubling down, and he kept getting owned a little bit. Barbie was a terrible movie, despite how much money it made, just like the first Captain Marvel. Yeah, but you just can't predict that it will not make money, and then it does make money, and then keep doubling down. Like, that's what you don't want to do. Got to start with a good tropical island layer. Oh yeah. Well, I'll show you how we start. We're working our way down. So this is the path. So what's B tier? I don't even know what is B tier. Like Eric July. Say C tier. We're kind of. This is already crowd. He still has a team under him. Still writing, still realizing his vision, but just not quite the resources on these levels above him. All these people could level up to the tier above them too. They're all kind of on their way going up. Guy in his room. I feel like I'm in a Sonic boss level. Jiminy Cricket. Hello, got it. Is this video game music? Yeah, it's Earthbound. Is it too loud? I don't know. It's quiet for me, but I think I just don't want my stream to get struck. But I'm playing it anyway. We're risking it for now. We've got to get to the point of a subpar 80s 90s film would be considered. Oh, we've got to the point subpar 80s 90s will be considered great. Yeah, that's true. And so I've only really said this on solo streams. I haven't said it like with my friends because they might disagree. But I think a big part of it is like over focus on the hero's journey, over reverence for it, blah blah blah. People like it too much. I think I'm kind of over it. I'm like, the hero's journey is stupid. Dare I say that? Dare I say it? But I think that's why a lot of modern movies, are just terrible. But one of the things I was thinking is like it can be a little bit of a problem because you have to like come to terms with the idea of being postmodern, which is also pros and cons. A double-edged sword. Also can be overdone. Also can get stupid. But the main thing I was thinking is like the next era we need is to not. Well, shit. I was gonna say this. The era we need is to not be predictable because a lot of shit's kind of predictable. That's one of the downfalls of the hero's journey is it makes stuff predictable. So you can make stuff unpredictable. That would be like the new era. It'd be a little postmodern. That's like Tarantino, which is awesome. But the only issue there is we have some examples of that are absolutely terrible too, which is like, for example, The Last Jedi. It actually is kind of unpredictable because it's just so retarded. And it is postmodern in the worst way. But I don't know. So anyway, what would be C for tiers of success? Like we're kind of already in. I don't necessarily want to just keep going down crowdfunding and just having less and less money. Another one, a step below that, it could be Sean Gordon Murphy, maybe. Here, you kind of have like lots of clout. You're still a toiler. You're still a worker, which is good. And you enjoy it. A warrior. You could say a warrior. And as you get up here, you get to the aristocracy. And then king, I guess. But then the clout, you can toil the clout away, like Sean Gordon Murphy kind of does that a little bit. 15 people watching. How's it going, everyone? So tiers of success, A, B, C, D. The warrior class, there's probably a lot. Like a step below that, again, you're just kind of going slightly less clout, but equal amounts warrior and toiler. But maybe, who could be even above Sean Gordon Murphy, who I don't particularly like, but we could put him on the list. Wait, I can just go like this. Drag this down. It's that one fool who gets all the Netflix deals, Jeff Lemire. And he's just a writer. He wants to think he's aristocracy, but he's not. He's a warrior class because he's a writer. Sort of. Warrior class is more artist. Maybe he is aristocracy. He's kind of the daywalker. He's what's one step below aristocracy? He's like a napkin boy. He's like a little butt boy. He's a butt boy. He's like the pool towel boy. Hands out the towels to the aristocracy. And at which point, all these on some level, except for the Eric July one, maybe. Although there's almost ways where you could, yeah, that one's a little bit different. But it's like, at some point, where does the deal with the devil start? And it's like, deal with devil, question mark, above. And then the devil, in this case, it could be Netflix. Which, and all that means is like just pandering to the narrative to try and get a Netflix deal. And there's people who do, who kind of don't even do that. Like, the aristocracy doesn't do that, I don't think. But the butt boys and the clout chasers do. And I'm going to go up all this whole, I'm going to hit every rung on my way to the top. So I'll have my little phase of being a butt boy, maybe. Maybe we can find a way to dodge it. A, B, C, D, E. And the one quick thing about Netflix that's funny too, this when Simply Green was saying like modern movies don't match up with old movies. There's a thing where it is kind of like where Netflix's service in society has kind of changed, where it's more about content, but it's, I guess you could say, quantity over quality, because it's more about having something to watch for people to kind of zone out in the evening when they get back from a job they don't really like. They kind of need to just unwind and throw something mindless on the tube. And some people will just rewatch Friends or rewatch The Office like over and over again. I've known a lot of people who do that, and it'll be on kind of in the background and they're barely watching it. And like that's almost not as bad as, because that doesn't that's actually almost like healthy. The unhealthy way is where Netflix is like, you don't need to rewatch the same thing over and over again. I'll make you something constantly new that you can watch every night, and you can still only multitask and barely pay attention and enjoy it. It will help you relax. So just have a seat and relax. That's like Netflix. And that's like where you get to some of the terrible crap that's going on. And I thought of something as I was saying that, but then I forgot it. If I think of it, I'll tell you guys. What are you guys saying? Angela Curry's here. What's up, Angela? Happy Friday. What are we doing? We're designing a plan to take over the world. The old Walt Disney from like even in the 70s, he was pretty badass. I'll say 1970s Walt. You know, one of these lower ones could be like early Walt. A, B, C, D, E, or early Mark Miller, early Sean Gordon Murphy. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Maybe I'm H right now. Maybe I'm G. So this is like stranger enters the town. And this is the stranger makes one friend. Because this is something funny. And maybe that level up could even get you to like E or whatever. I don't know. But I swear this sounds dumb when I say it, but I swear it's like kind of deep. But it's that 2 is double 1, but 3 is not double 2. So if you make one friend, you kind of team up, you've doubled your output, which is insane. But if you make a third friend, then you don't double your output. But from going from 1 to 2 and 2 to 4, that's another double. That seems sort of realistic. So we'll say 1, 2, 4. The 4 is like, we're already here, like 8, 16, 32, 64, 1. And then this is actually order of magnitudes, greater, almost by 10. Yeah, at that point. So if you think about everyone under the umbrella, Eric is like almost around 32. Maybe that's a little high, but he's got multiple projects going, multiple little jobs, and logo design, lettering, obviously artists and coloring and writers, blah blah blah, some animation stuff, marketing, all that stuff. So if he's at 32, Mark, we'll go order of magnitude. So Mark Miller could be 320, which I don't know if it could be higher than that. It's like multiple Netflix projects that staff hundreds. So, and Walt Disney, yeah, is like, we'll even say just 70s Walt Disney, because now Walt Disney's like a little bit different, and you don't even want that level of success. There's like a level of success where it does sabotage itself. That's where like founders get kicked out of their own company. You get up these numbers, like, at some point you got to go public. That's like, Netflix is a public company, so this is like public. This is private. So then you're dealing with shareholders. That's when you can you have to hire. The more people you have to hire, the higher probability that you get some like communists in there that will like legitimately try and like take you out and replace you. Which is funny, like, to say it like that, but I swear that's like actually. It's sometimes. I was telling this to my parents once. I was like, if you believe like most of the conspiracy theories, that is actually more accurate than believing none of them, and the accuracy can kind of let you navigate the world more effectively. So it's worth it to just believe them all, almost, if you only have the two choices. It's kind of like that with how you deal with communists. It's like, they are trying to take over your company. It's like they'd be like, you're paranoid. You're what? Just paranoid. They're gaslighting you. You're paranoid. But then you're like, no. We could say, just back to doubling, 640, but we'll say 3200. So Walt Disney, Mark Moore, Eric July. And as you go up, it does kind of go from I gotta get more room in my game. This is the world domination plan, everyone. So here is comics. Here, pretty much here is like film, animation, video games. But I feel like that could be at the 8 and 16 level. But what I'm trying to do a little bit is I want to get some film, animation, video games at the level of 2 or 4. And then they have to be kind of indie. They can't be necessarily as badass, but maybe you can get close, and then you could. So that would be the idea. You get close, then you can kind of compete, and then you get some. You're expanding. And this is just like running teams, kind of. And this is more like partnerships, not even running teams. Solo. So I'm pretty much at this level right now. Because me and Jared have teamed up quite a bit, and we're working on some animation. So what is F and E to get to the Sean Gordon Murphy level? So one thing about that too is, if you're the warrior class, it is, what's kind of nice is it is a little bit meritocratic. Like even Jeff Lemire, like he actually is a good writer, even though he's a piece of shit. I actually don't know him, but I think he was one of those assholes who pulled up the ladder behind him when all the woke stuff was happening, and then condemned Comicsgate and stuff. And Sean Gordon Murphy is an amazing artist. So that's one thing. You got to keep getting better to even have access to the warrior class. This is peasant class, we'll say. If you get to 4 E, and you know what's funny? So, like, right in here, somewhere in here could be like Ethan Van Sciver, like right below Eric July, maybe. He's above Sean Gordon Murphy, though. And then that's kind of an interesting question of apples to oranges, is Jeff Lemire versus Ethan Van Sciver, if you're trying to measure success. Like, you can kind of just like, who's richer? Jeff Lemire has a bunch of Netflix deals. Ethan has like some great $1 million crowdfund campaigns, some great IPs, huge audience. If Jeff Lemire tried to do a crowdfund, he could not hit where Ethan does, but then he is propped up from the deal with Satan. Jeff Lemire definitely did a deal with Satan. He's the ultimate butt boy. Let me see what you guys are saying. Not doubting you. Narwhal thinks so much, all he has to think about are thoughts. See, that's postmodern. And that's like double-edged sword. It's not necessarily the best. So the earth is flat, I will live accordingly. Seriously. Or, I guess with that, I was thinking that one of the main ones is just that the satanic cabal that runs the world and starts all the wars, and they're trying to get the one world government. They're trying to get us all to eat bugs. So then you'd be like, note to self, don't eat bugs if possible, even though whatever, they might be sort of, like, I've seen Timon and Pumbaa eat them grubs and it looks tasty. Like, that is propaganda. Years ahead of its time. But that propaganda works. That's like good propaganda. Like, makes me literally want to eat bugs. But I've been getting into bugs lately. I'm super into, well, spiders. I don't know if they count as bugs. They're arachnids. Maybe they're bugs. But spiders are awesome. But there's these freaking YouTube channels that, because on the bug level, you can still pit them to fight each other, and it's not like cockfighting or whatever. Apparently, it's not like whatever, like you get arrested, it's illegal. It's not illegal to catch like a praying mantis and a spider, put them both in a jar, and then make them fight. There's like a lot of YouTube videos with that kind of stuff, and they'll have millions of views. But I found it like, I don't know. I'm on my high horse about that. F that. They should not be doing that. At a certain point, adding more artists and coders isn't going to make things any better. Small indie teams of 5 to 20 people are whooping big studios. Yeah, that's true. Angela Creed, this music is perfect. Yeah. Don Bluth. Let's add him on there. He would be... Oh, yeah, he could be like right beneath Disney, kind of tied with Mark Millar. I might put him slightly above Mark Millar. That's a great one. That's a good... And his path was kind of interesting. He just did one movie. It was Secret of NIMH. He worked at Disney. He broke off, started competing directly with them, they're like, good luck, you'll never be able to do it. The ins and outs, the logistics to pull off a feature film back then without all the crazy technology that makes it a little bit more doable. They're like, you won't be able to do it. And just to get like the equipment is like $1 million for like to buy like 20 desks for 20 artists. If each desk is $500, and then the accoutrements that go with the desk, the lighting, the paper, the tools. Say it goes up to $1,000. That's $20,000. Then you got to get the room and the office and the cameras and the film, and that gets way high. And then you got to pay all those 20 people. It gets like so high so fast. So if you got the money, but then yeah, it's kind of like efficiency of what you can do with these numbers of people here. So what you'd want, I guess, it's like we got this little grid. Like if you could, so the path to world domination is you only have access to this square, but you have to get up into this square. And the only way you can do that is by messing with film, animation, and video games. Is there other ways you could do it? The other way you could do it is like you could date Taylor Swift and get the Swifties to like buy all your books. Or get a shout out from an influencer. It's because this is like a little bit pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps. There is word of mouth. Okay. We're gonna. So then the upward vector is word of mouth, which is meritocratic, and you do have to be warrior class a little bit to have that happen. And then shout outs and endorsements. Which is kind of a double-edged sword in itself. It's a little weird. But what's interesting is that actually does, for my career so far, it was the shout out from your boy Zach and from Ethan Van Sciver that helped me the most. And then you're kind of in word of mouth. So I do want to pay back with this. I try to give these when I can. My main one is Brendan Swan and Jared Jewell, which actually, so the team members, it's basically Jared, but I do kind of count Brendan in there too a little bit. We haven't like fully got going. We don't bring Brendan on like the three of us are going to make an animated movie. It's more just like Brendan's around and he's a great writer. Let me see what you guys are saying. Oh, so gems in the 5 to 10 range. Well, are you just a G or a top G? Yeah. Speaking of that, what's that guy's name? Andrew Tate. It's like he's not Walt Disney level, but money-wise, he might be like more on Jeff Lemire. But then if you go actually with the meritocracy, just speaking of his comics, they aren't good enough yet. They're like peasant level. So he's like all over the board. That's kind of some of the apples to oranges stuff. Like if people are dabbling, that's what people would accuse Eric July of, which I think is incorrect. But like, and even Ethan gets accused of this too. That you're more of a YouTuber first and then a comic creator second. So that would be like a question too of like the focus, and that's the thing that can get you an upward vector is apples to oranges, audience, conglomeration. I think we can use that word. Conglomeration. and that's like YouTube. What else could that work for? Stand-up comedy. You suddenly become a stand-up comic, get famous, and you're like, by the way, I'm trying to make a video game or whatever. Wendigoon is like in that realm. He's kind of, a lot of the YouTubers are breaking into movies now, and they're kind of in this zone. Some of them I do get skeptical as they break over. I'm like, are you warrior class or are you peasant class? And that maybe that's something they have to prove almost. Because if a YouTuber broke over and made a movie, and if the movie sucked, it's like, oh, you're peasant class. Sorry. What is? So where would Wendigoon go? He's probably on the Eric July level almost. I'll put him right under Eric July. So this is like YouTubers. And then I don't know about our EF. Maybe it doesn't exist, and this is just up here. But these are like more simple. This is like maybe if you get a slightly bigger YouTube. Right now, that's the only way. Or the other way, it's kind of the Sean Gordon Murphy way too, is you can get a big audience by doing warrior class on a character that has a big audience and then carry some of that back. So if he draws Batman, then a lot of people that like his work on Batman, the exposure from that, they'll buy his Zorro. So we could say E could be like top level contract warrior. That's what Sean Gordon Murphy used to be, and then he leveled up into the like clout warrior. A warrior with clout. And then this is a warrior without clout. A warrior gaining clout. He's Canadian, Camara says. Got any Silent Hill 2 music? No! Why are you saying no? What did I do? Michael DJ, what's up? What would success for Narwhal next year look like? I was thinking I'm 37 and I'm kind of measuring it by the time I turn 40. I want to get, hopefully, it's you never quite hit what you're aiming for, but I want to get all of Earthbound done and have that be quote unquote undeniable. And then maybe take a year off from comics and just mess around with animation, movies, and video games, and even YouTube, and just kind of see what's up with that. And then maybe get a little back into comics. But I kind of do want to pivot to animation, movies, video games type stuff. Even though I love comics, but it's funny. I've been at comics kind of a long time now. You know, it's been 7 years. Top level contract warrior. Put a chicken in, make her gay. That's the deal with the devil. And that's what you can do. This one. Oh, that is one. Yeah, so another upwards thing is deal with devil. Put a chick, make gay. And then, yeah, networking and contract work. I'll write that some down here. But that takes time, and you don't always want to waste too much time, but that's something you can do. But this is, so there is like a little bit of a grid here that's like, it's got some numbers to it. So These are like the number of people under you as you go up. So 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 320. Then that's like orders of magnitude, like 3,200. And then there's what's capable over here. So like film, animation, video games. At the bottom with one person is like comics. And the way that you would level up, the path that I think is a cool way to go is you take a low number here and you try to get these high number results here. And how you do that is like alchemy, warrior class, meritocracy, magic, luck, secret sauce, alchemical secret sauce. To get video games and animation. That's another thing by 40. I want to like maybe have made a movie hopefully by then, even if it's just my weird 2-person talking movie. But I have a few scripts that are lower budget. I'm like, I could actually shoot these. So I'm taking steps. That one is like really outside the box in my brain. It's like being a little bit older too. It's like a little bit harder. You just got to force yourself. Because your brain kind of wants comfort zone. Like comics, I'll just do comics. But I'll write a script. It's like, this could be a movie. Not all scripts can be movies. A lot of them, they have to be a comic because it's like got flying robots and shit. I'm like, well, I have a script that's just 2 people talking. I'm like, well, I could do that as a comic too. It'd be a very interesting comic, just 2 people talking. That'd be cool. I'm like, no. Do it as a movie. One of the only things that can be done as a movie. And it's like, yeah, but it might suck. It's like, yeah, still, gotta do it. Go for it. Secret Man, bravest things ever done in Hollywood. Yeah, I think so. And it paid off. It was like very cool. And Disney was like bullies and weird. They were weird about it. I'm completely retexturing a Candy Crush clone. Nice. That's not a bad idea. See how it goes. That's another thing is like iterations. I'll write that down. But it is. That's one down here. It's like networking and contract work. This kind of means throwing shit at the wall, see what sticks. That works, but it takes time. So it's good if you try that when you're younger. That's one thing I was worried about is like, it's so different from the past looking back. And you get these stories like they say like your first million is the hardest to make, but then it's easy after that. And then there are people who are kind of rich and they're like, yeah, you could actually take all my money away and I could make another million from scratch way quicker, like in a year, whereas it took me 20 years or whatever the first time. And is it because of what they know? Is it because of the esoteric knowledge? And the esoteric knowledge is funny too, because that means whatever you don't say. It's what can't be spoken out loud. But there's stuff that can be spoken out loud and it just goes over people's heads. So it's still like a secret. Like even just if it's a little more broad, like Steven Spielberg, he says like his advice to young filmmakers is to don't be boring. And you're like, okay, that's like esoteric knowledge, because I'm sure for him that has deep meaning, but for most people it doesn't. And that's the thing where like, yeah, if Steven Spielberg suddenly started down here at the bottom, he could write a story and start building up his way all the way to the top with that being his mantra, but we wouldn't know exactly what he's doing. So it's this question of like, what do they even do? What is their advice of all these possibilities? What works best? And then sometimes you're like, well, if you try like a million things and you try the one thing that works, you're like, shit, I should have tried that a million years ago. Why didn't I try it right away? Sometimes it's the most simple thing too. Like one that I was kind of thinking is like maybe doing a comic and really taking the time and trying to do it with traditional art. But the problem is I have kind of thought that and sort of tried it. And then for me, I still hit ceilings a little bit where I'm not warrior class enough at that yet. But that's like a little bit like Sean Gordon Murphy. Like he's literally just a good enough artist that he kind of starts to the gravity or like the oil on water kind of thing. He starts to rise. just purely from like the warrior class meritocracy style stuff. So that would be one that in hindsight feels kind of simple. You're like, well, shit, all you got to do is be the best, and then it works out. It just happens to work out. I'm like, well, yeah, but, and then you're like, are there examples of people who are quote unquote the best, but they are sort of undiscovered? We have a little bit of that going on with Comicsgate, I do think, just because I say we're fourth dimensional beings. It's because just the mainstream, they do not like know about us or check us out. Like, you don't, they just don't. Like, it's not like they check us out and they're like, you guys aren't ready yet, kids, or you boys, you dudes aren't ready yet, you people aren't ready yet. That is not even like a thing. It's like they do not even aren't even aware. So it's like in that case there could be some examples where, and that could be a thing that happens down the line where you start getting some of the headhunters for like IPs and stuff are actually looking more into crowdfunding, and they could find Earthbound and stuff. But then you get into the question of like, is it a deal with the devil? Because it would be cool to do it without that. Like, or, oh yeah, this is another interesting way to think about it. Like, I was thinking when I did network with Mark Miller, you know, kind of through your boy Zach's, did a positive review of Foreign Agent. Mark Miller follows all that stuff. He really keeps his finger on the pulse of like everything. So he was kind of aware. Speaking of being fourth dimensional, he is fourth dimensional because he does see. And so he followed me on Twitter. I was like, did you follow me because of the positive review from your boy Zach? And he's like, yeah. So we were chatting a little bit. So like, boom, networking established. And he's like giving advice, and it's been great talking to him here and there. But what was I gonna say? What was I gonna say? You know what? I'm out of coffee. Crap. It was like one of the better points of the whole thing that I was thinking of that's interesting about how this all works. Oh, the fantasy. So then the fantasy kicks in, and the fantasy is like, maybe he's gonna give me $1 million and say to make something or something like that, you know, because this is the problem. Number one is like, you do have to kind of think detailed about how it actually works. And then, because it is like funny, like Netflix has, speaking of when Disney was ripping on Don Bluth, Netflix has networks in place, like they have studios to make animation. So they have people that they can utilize and go to that are good at what they do, and they can plug in an IP. They could like buy the rights to Harry Potter, hand it to the dude at top, who I don't even know who that is, and then that guy could, and maybe it could be like CIA subcontracting. Like there's that one, the people who do Castlevania, they like are based in Texas, and then they subcontract through Korea or whatever. And yeah, so like some of that, but you can just plug in, like in that even case of Castlevania, you know, they get a writer, they hire a writer who's a comic writer they hired, Warren Ellis was it, and he writes Castlevania. They get it, they put the production pipeline, and so the idea of like cutting in line, like it almost wouldn't happen. Like I don't think, like, so this would be like the fantasy though, but then you have to even figure out what the fantasy is. This is part of like the wooey stuff of visualization and affirmations, because if you like are like, shoot, I've managed to network with someone at almost the top tier who I can chat with, you know, we're friendly acquaintances, and he gives me advice and stuff from time to time. Like what's the next step from there? So you have this fantasy, but it won't even have a chance of becoming real unless it's a realistic fantasy. So then you're trying to think of like, what even is, but an example of an unrealistic fantasy is like, ooh, Mark Millar's going to give me $1 million and say to turn one of my comics into an animation. Like that is unrealistic. What, I don't even know what would be realistic is like, but that's the problem. That's what I would want. I want to be the guy working on the animation. So then it's like, well, then you have to set up your own, everything that it's kind of what Don Bluth did. Everything that Netflix has pre-set up, their whole system, you have to do that too and have it ready. And you have to have like made something And so then it goes back to like taking kind of a lot of time. But that's what me and Jared are doing. So we're putting it in a position where we can be dudes that can grow and plug in stuff to make stuff. And I've even thought a few steps ahead. Like I've talked to Brendan Swan. I'm like, yo, we say like in a couple years, if the animation thing is going smooth, we can make an animated version of Disintegration Street, or the one he wrote for me is called Scarlet Magic, which is just amazing. I'm super stoked on that. But that's going to be a comic first. But yeah, it's just funny. It's like winning like a small, if it's called, I don't know if it's like a small victory, it feels like a big victory. Like, oh my god, I've actually, met and talked to one of the A class aristocracy, and then you're like, what does this mean for my career? You're like, well, it sort of means nothing. But yeah, that it's like the things that you think it would possibly mean, and how stupid those fantasies are. Like, oh, maybe Netflix will make Earthbound a TV show. That's the thing. So say that's like the fantasy. That's actually a little more realistic than here's $1 million. Actually, Fox News went with Family Guy with Seth MacFarlane. They kind of did that for Family Guy. But first he animated like I don't know if it was 13 minutes, like in like animation school. He had like the pilot, and it was like the structure of the jokes and the animation style. And like he gave that to them, and they were like, okay, maybe make a pilot, make a half-hour animated show. Here's $50,000. And he's like, well, you mean like just me? And they're like, yeah, well, you have $50,000, so you can hire someone if you want. And he's like, but $50,000 isn't that much. And they're like, yeah, so maybe it's just you. So that's hilarious. Like Seth MacFarlane, I'll put him on the list too. He's actually up here above Mark Miller and above Don Bluth. He's right below Walt Disney, kind of. But so he had $50,000. He was on the one tier, and then he made the pilot himself for a year. He said he worked like 16 hours a day for a year, and maybe it was for 6 months. So he worked 16 hours a day for 6 months, made the animated pilot, did all the voices. So he's warrior class with that, got the skill. And then the rest is kind of history. But that was crazy. He ran the gauntlet of like such hard work, such determination, so crazy that he pulled that off. But that is like a good path to success that you can almost emulate potentially. But it's like, that's him looking back. You're like, oh, it's simple, really. You just got to work so insanely hard, and you got to be good for one, and have skill, be warrior class. Then you got to work so insanely hard that it's like orders of magnitude greater than anyone has ever worked before. And then, yeah, you get like all the crazy success. Seth MacFarlane. But yeah, so the fantasy of like, oh, what if Netflix was like the Netflix deal. Oh, we're gonna do a show of Earthbound. I mean, the way it works, for the kind of way it realistically works, is like not my fantasy. I almost feel like I wouldn't want that. That's why I'm like, damn, I want to be the guy who sets up the workflow myself, because they would be like, we're gonna buy we're gonna option it. And that's not that much money. So that could be like $1,000 or something. But then it would be like, maybe if they actually put it into production, then maybe it's like 100,000 or whatever. Still not crazy. And then you lose complete control, and then they just take it and it goes off somewhere. And it's like, yeah, well, maybe. So then what about the fantasy of like, well, what if I told them that I want to be part of production? That's a little bit more like Frank Miller when they did Sin City one-on-one with Robert Rodriguez. Frank Miller's like, I only really want to sell the rights if I can kind of be hands-on. And then Robert Rodriguez is like, well, we'll co-direct it. And so that was kind of like an ideal kind of fun situation. But that's different. You're dealing with kind of one person And then Robert Rodriguez, he has his network of production set up too. You know, he had his entire 3D studio, special effects studio set up in Austin that he subcontracted. So a lot of this stuff, it's setting up the, I don't know what the word is. I was gonna say like the network or like the bones or the contraption. You could say contraption. So you got to set up the contraption yourself. Pretty much, if you really want the cool path. That's like Eric July is doing that. Seth MacFarlane did it. Walt Disney did it. Jeff Lemire did not do it. This is Butt Boy right here. So yeah. Let me see what you guys are saying. I do need to run and get more coffee. And we're at 50-minute stream. I'm like, could I talk for an hour about the world domination plan? There is no F. What is our F? We should just fill it in. It's my OCD. Honestly, think that NFL has an agreement with Taylor to boost their viewership. Oh, dude, I wouldn't deny it. You need to be dead at peak popularity. Yeah. Like Cobain or whatever. I could have sworn you said you were 38 last year. No way. Aim for the sun, settle for the moon. Yeah. Alchemist. Once you get an IP cross media, that's kind of a good simple way to put it too. And it's funny, you can kind of say it, then it immediately becomes like quite daunting and crazy. Like say like a video game. Yes, I'll make a video game. That's like, okay, you know, potentially even for like a small but kind of cool video game. And you're talking getting some people on board, at least maybe one or two others, probably two others in about a year of your life at least. And then maybe if you need money to do that, whatever. It all makes me feel so lazy. Well, right now we're just talking about doing it. We're not even doing it. We are being lazy right now. This is a distraction. This is a deal with the devil. Michael DC. My one film was objectively bad, but we finished it on a credit card budget and learned a lot. We got a full chapter in a book about indie films. Nice, that's cool. The Oldest View. I don't know what that one is. Do you think you could slowly film a movie over time? Maybe. Well, I'm almost wanted. It would still have to be the crazy low budget, and it might end up sucking. A lot of stuff you just have to do it. I think it was one point I kind of like from your boy Zach, where he was pointing out of the crowdfunded books, he's like, how many of these are people's first book? And you're like, oh damn, it's a really high percentage. It's like, okay, that just kind of means something. Like that will change. A lot of people will go on to make second, third, fourth, fifth. But the difference between first and fifth is like, you know, that's how you learn and get better. So if you're thinking like, oh, I want to break into movies, it's like you got to think about making a helicopter coming by. You got to think about making 5 movies rather than 1. But you still got to make the first. One thing I've learned in tech and entertainment worlds, no one buys ideas. If you can get your idea on a shelf for sale somehow, then you'll be taken seriously, even if it kind of sucks. Oh yeah, that's a good point. Ideas are cheap. Everyone says that, and I believe it too. Is there a name for the Narwhal universe? The Narverse. Not really. It's just because they're there isn't super overlap yet. It's just Earthbound, and then everything's different. Earthbound, it does have possibly the ever so slight overlap with the Naked Samurai, but that's just in a funny, goofy way. Like they don't actually overlap. Good Joe, what's up, man? We're talking about how to take over the world. Simply just apply everything on this green board, and then you can do it. I'm just catching up with the chat right now, and then probably get out of here. Angela, boy. Trying to make a new Game Boy game in my midlife crisis. I think it's just making it worse. That could be cool. She goes, where do we start? Is that when she said no? And I said, what? She goes, where do we start? Or are you saying, where do we start? Like, hey, if you're going to take over the world, you start at 1. And you got to get to 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 30, like whatever. And you got to go up to animation, film, video games. That's actually kind of a funny thing. I only just saying it out loud. I'm like, you can't. I'm pretty sure you can't do it with just doing comics. You just can't. You have to expand into either animation, movies, or video games. Henry III, what's up? What's up? Cool. Yep. So, what are the conclusions? Is basically, I think it's just that we gotta set up your own contraption, control your fantasies so that they're slightly more realistic, so that you can have affirmations and visualizations rather than completely off the wall bonkers shit. And if you're setting up the contraption yourself, you're trying to jump, you're trying to skip, and the best way to do that I know that I'm thinking is get 2 people instead of 1, and then try and make film, animation, video game, something like that, or 4 people. 2. Those are some possible sweet spots. A lot of the deal with the devil stuff doesn't seem like that good a deal potentially. Like Jeff Lemire Butt Boy path, just getting Netflix deals, becoming a millionaire. So I can't think of anything he's written that's like, when it gets turned into a TV show, if it feels like classic, really, like Sweet Tooth. It's like whatever. It's like that content that people watch after work to not hate their life or whatever. When do we get a trebuchet? Probably the warrior class or the aristocracy could produce a trebuchet. Yeah, it's called. Is it called Boyhood? Maybe I forget. And it's that one guy. I forget his name. 90s filmmaker. Would like to see CG bars run into the games, TV, film, animation maybe first. I know games are that's kind of the most of a riddle that I'm not sure. I'm like, you could maybe do a game that's like quite simple, but then it might not make a big splash. But that could be cool. I have an idea for a game though, and I was thinking I kind of want to do it as a comic or animation, but it would be an adaptation of my favorite fairy tale, which is called What the Rose Did to the Cypress. And it would be like the game, it would be a visual, like what a visual novel dating sim and it would be you just write. It would be all about funny dialogue branches, kind of within this fairy tale. And I'm pretty sure it could work and be cool, but it would have to be specific. That's the one thing I'm kind of learning from Casper Crows. I've interviewed him twice, and he's a successful game developer. He did Elisa, which is kind of the Resident Evil clone. And it's like the idea itself has to be kind of like simple and perfect. And then you can like have the vision and follow through. But if you come in without like a simple, perfect idea, or like a self-identity even, like with Elisa, it has a self-identity. It's like it knows it's a Resident Evil clone. And if you come in, yeah, like you're like, I'm gonna make just some crazy game, and you're thinking of gameplay loops and all this crazy stuff. Like one example would be like, I'm gonna make a point and click adventure. Like then you could actually do that. It might take a year or two, but you could actually do it. Then you just have to make it really good, and then it could do okay. But I'm kind of not too into the point and click adventures right now. I'm not even super into like visual novel dialogue tree dating sim, but I'm like that would be perfect for that story. Well read, what's up, man? Did I already say what's up? I forget. Henry Thurn, I had an idea for a video game and it started writing a comic script for it. Yeah, are you saying that's funny? Like if the video game inspiration just leads to comics, because that happens to me a little bit too. Even with movies, I'm like, oh, this would be a great movie. I'm like, I'll just do it as a comic. This would be a great video game. I'll just do it as a comic. What is this music? Did it change? It was Earthbound, but it might have changed. I think it's Earthbound still. You ever watch Pirate Software? Veteran game devs encouragement to make your game. That's cool. Make a game for the gays. Long overdue. Yeah. The problem, it's just I don't know. Maybe you could crowdfund it and just see if you could raise like something crazy like 100K, and then that would be kind of crazy though. It would not reach its goal. But if it did, you'd be like, all right, got some programmers in mind, we're bringing them on. Got some artists on mind, we're bringing them on. We're working for a year. We're going to make this game. Yep. All right, well, I'm going to kind of end the stream. I don't know if we got to the bottom of much, but yeah, we got to the bottom of a few things. I'm going to Oni says, start simple. For games, for sure. You gotta. Did you write this music? I wish. This is Earthbound music. Oh, and I mean, sorry, like Earthbound, the Super Nintendo game. And it's kind of iconic and classic. It's great. Jared, my collaborator, he's a musician. I play guitar, but I'm not really a musician. I wouldn't even say I actually play guitar. Although I guess I do, but I don't really, you know what I mean? Okay, I'm gonna click end. I'm gonna make a clips show eventually for the intros and outros one day. Okay, see you guys later.